I have never made a secret of the fact that I absolutely love Cajun cuisine, and today we are doing one of my very, very favorite foods on the planet. We are making shrimp and sausage gumbo. Look at that. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. If this is your first time tuning in, let us know you're out there by giving us a big thumbs up below and then hit that subscribe button to make sure you never miss a video. Now, let's start cooking. Gumbo is like lots of dishes around the United States, around the country. That is, if you make chili, it's very regional in the way that you make it. Some people like beans in their chili. Some people don't like beans in their chili. Some people like it hot. Some people like it chunky. Some people like it smooth. Well, gumbo is kind of the same way. But the one thing I will say about gumbo, and today we are doing a shrimp and sausage gumbo, is that the most important thing is the roux, R-O-U-X. And so roux is the base of the gumbo, and it's really the base of the sauce. And the roux is simply a mixture of fat and flour. In this case, we're using vegetable oil and flour. Now, I personally prefer a dark roux, a very dark roux, because I feel like that's the best flavor and it's the deepest flavor. Sometimes, you might get a gumbo with a blonde roux or with a medium color roux, and it probably tastes fine. My personal preference is a dark roux, so that's what we're going to be going for today. So let's take a look at our ingredients. Now, for our roux, we've got, like I said, we've got some vegetable oil and some flour. I've also got some smoked sausage here, and this is actually fresh smoked sausage. It's cold smoked, so it needs to be cooked a little bit. So what I'm going to do is actually cook this sausage very first before we add our oil. Normally you would put your oil in, get that hot, and then add your flour. I'm going to actually cook this sausage so that we actually have some of the oil from the sausage in there. So that's going to be for our roux. And now the roux that we're doing today is, I'm kind of an old-fashioned. I like doing my roux. You can actually buy roux in the stores in the United States that are very good packaged roux. I personally prefer just to make my own roux. I can't buy roux here in France anyhow, so I'm just going to make it from scratch. And so that's what we're going to be doing. The process of making roux, you can do it two different ways. You can stand over the stove for 45 minutes cooking and stirring, which is what I kind of prefer to do many times, just because it's a matter of you just are getting in touch with that roux. It's your roux. You start it from scratch, and to see that transformation to me is magical. Now, you could also start that roux and you can put it in the oven and just let it cook in the oven, which is really probably a more sensible way because you have a lot of other things to do besides the roux. In our case today, we're going to be making a shrimp stock from scratch using the heads and the shells of the shrimp that we use. And so, if you started your roux and you put it in the oven, you could then be chopping your vegetables, you could be making your shrimp stock, you could be doing all these other things. But we're not going to do that. I have already chopped my vegetables. So now let's take a look at our vegetables. We are using what is called basically the Holy Trinity. This is the Cajun Holy Trinity, or the Cajun Trinity. And that Trinity consists of onions, celery, and green bell peppers. So we've got those, and to that we're going to add a little bit of garlic. So once we get our roux made, we will then add the Trinity into there. We'll sweat those vegetables, and then we'll add our garlic to that, and then we will put our stock in it. By that time we will have made our our shrimp stock, which is going to be, again, like I said, made from the heads of the shrimp. So we have peeled and deveined our shrimp. We're actually just going to set these shrimp in the refrigerator and just let them chill until we're ready to use those. They really kind of get tossed in at the very end. But we're going to make a very tasty stock today as well. And then our flavorings, our aromatics for the roux are going to be a bay leaf, and we've got some thyme here. And then just to thicken our roux, we're actually using okra. And now the okra is really what is traditionally used in roux. Sometimes you can use filet powder, which is added at the end. And filet is a thickener, but it's also something you cannot find in France. So we are going with the traditional okra. And whether you like the taste of okra or not, I personally don't care for okra, but the okra has magical powers, and the magic is in the I guess not the gelatinous gelatinous character of okra. It really helps to bring your roux and your sauce together. So that's why we're going to be using the okra today. And we've only got about a half a cup of just sliced okra. Strangely enough, they don't know what okra is in France. It's actually called gumbo, Gombo. So if you go to look for okra in the store in France, you have to ask for gumbo. And really, you can only find it in certain stores that have a shopping population, probably of African immigrants or people from Guadeloupe or some of the Caribbean islands, because it's not really a vegetable that's common to France. It's more of an African vegetable. But that is what we're going to be using. And then we're just going to flavor it with some salt and pepper, and we've got some cayenne pepper. So those are our ingredients. Let's get started. So as I said, the sausage we're using is a cold smoked sausage. It's absolutely wonderful, but I wanted to go ahead and cook it a little bit more, so that's what we're starting with. We're starting with the sausage in this pot. And now in the ingredients below, you will see that I have listed an andouille sausage. If I were in the States, I would be definitely using andouille sausage for the sausage, and also some tasso. And tasso is a smoked ham, which also has an amazing flavor for gumbo. Again, can't get that in France, but this is what we are using, and so we're just getting this browned a little bit and just have some of that oil released from there. In the meantime, even though we are using copper, I've already got my copper pan on, but I've got a little bit of oil in it. Normally you don't want to heat up a copper pan with nothing in it, but I've got a little bit of oil in it, and we just want it to get fairly hot, and we're going to just toss our shells in there, because this is going to be the base for our stock. So you see that nice beautiful pink color there? That is what we want. Okay. And that is an incredible aroma. So once we get those shells turning pink, we're just going to add a little bit of water to this, and that'll be the base for our stock. Okay, we have switched burners now because we now have our water in our stock pan, our stock pot, so we've just put that back there. We're going to bring that to the boil, and then we're going to turn it down and let it simmer for probably the 45 minutes that it takes us to get our roux made. So here we have our sausage, and this sausage it's not andouille sausage, but man, it is absolutely delicious. This is an artisan smoked sausage from here in France, and had to taste it just to make sure. Oh my gosh, it is absolutely stunning.
What is artisan?
Artisan is a handmade sausage that is not mass produced. So a lot of times in the stores, you'll see things that have the word artisan on them, and they actually mean that they are handmade on a specific farm, and usually in small batches. And it's the same with bread, or if you see a boulangerie, sometimes you'll see artisan boulangerie. That means all the bread products are handmade in that boulangerie or in that bakery. So that's what this sausage is. It is fantastic. So we can just set that aside. And now we're just going to add our oil, into our pot. And in the recipe, I've listed, I think, for the volume that we're doing, I think I've listed a half cup of oil to a half cup of flour. This is the one time where flour can be based on volume. Normally, if you're baking, you want to weigh your flour ingredient, but in this case, equal parts, equal volumes, flour and fat is what you're going for. So we're going to get this oil heated up, then we'll add our flour in. Okay, our oil is nice and hot. I'm just going to go ahead and add our flour into it, and we'll just get it stirred in, and then we'll immediately turn our heat down because we want to get our flour incorporated, but we don't want to burn it. So I'm using the whisk to kind of get it incorporated without lumping up. And then we will continue to stir it with our wooden spoon. And this part is where your patience really comes in handy, because you cannot rush it. For risk of burning your roux, because if you burn your roux, then you have to start over. It's no good once you burn it. Now it looks like our stock has come to a boil in the back here, so I'm going to move that to a little bit smaller burner, and we're going to turn that down. And now it's just a matter of cooking and stirring this roux probably for the next 30-35 minutes. And as you can see right now, it's a nice off-white color. We are going to be going for a fairly dark chocolate color. So we'll just continue to stir this around until we reach that color. So we have been stirring this now for probably, it's been about 16 minutes. And you can see the change in color from when we first started. So this is, we're literally probably about halfway there. But this is after about 15 minutes of stirring. And it's starting to take on really a nutty flavor, which is what you want. And it's just going to be absolutely delicious. So we're just keep on cooking and stirring this, and I've got this on as low as my heat can go. And we will continue to cook and stir this until we get it even darker. We've been cooking for 26 minutes now, and as you can see, again, we've got another color change, and it's getting that beautiful color. It's still not where we want it yet, but it's a nice golden, dark golden hue. So we're going to continue to cook and stir for probably another good 10 minutes to get it where we want it.
Hey everybody, it's Walter from Artistic Gourmet Adventures. My wife Kim and I own this unique small group tour company where we host groups of 6 to 12 guests for 1 week luxury adventures in beautiful locations throughout Europe and the United States. I have the privilege of being the adventure chef, creating and preparing daily gourmet meals for our guests. So, in this video series, from our cozy home kitchen here in the beautiful Loire Valley of France, we will demonstrate a wide variety of recipes, from culinary classics to originals, as well as covering professional kitchen techniques for the home chef. For more information on Artistic Gourmet Adventures, check our website, linked in the description below.
Okay, we've been cooking and stirring for probably about 45 minutes now, and I think we have achieved the color we want. And this is kind of a cafe color, a little bit darker than caramel. It's not totally dark chocolate, but what you want to make sure is if you start smelling, a bitter smell, then you need to stop, because you don't want it to be bitter. But this is going to be just fantastic. And let me also mention that while you're doing this, be really careful. This is lethally hot. So just exercise extreme caution when you're stirring this around. And let me say also, we've got our shrimp stock. Our heads are still kind of lightly boiling. And what I'm going to do is we're going to put our vegetables, we're going to start putting our vegetables in the oil here. And so we'll start with the vegetables. And once we finish putting those in, we'll strain our stock, and then we will put it over a high fire to actually reduce it a little bit. So we're going to go in now with our onions. What we're doing with the onions is we want to basically sweat these until they have given up, a good deal of their water. The smell is absolutely unbelievable. They smell so sweet already. Just a wonderful smell. So once we basically sweat our onions and keep stirring those around, we're going to cook these for 3 or 4 minutes. Then we want to add our celery. But the first thing you want to do is really get your onions to where they are sweating and giving up that moisture, and that also brings out the sweetness. I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit. And look at that beautiful color. Okay, our onions are looking nice and soft. And you can just literally smell the sweetness coming off these onions. So now let's add our celery. And we want to soften the celery. Same thing. It doesn't take as long as the onions do to soften. But we just want to cook and stir to get those soft. And well mixed in. And now let's add our green bell peppers. And along with our bell peppers, we'll add our garlic. Oh, nice. And now, since we are not going to be using filet, we will be adding our okra. We're going to cook this for 4 or 5 minutes. Just let these, we really do want these vegetables to cook. And then we'll add our okra, and that'll be basically our thickening agent. Okay, we've got that nice and it's been nice and stirred in. All these vegetables should be nice and soft. And now let's add our okra. And we will let that, we'll get it stirred in, let it cook for 3 or 4 minutes. Get my heat back up. And I'm just going to let that cook by itself for a few minutes. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and strain we're going to go ahead and strain our stock into another pot. Let's see here. And the best way to do this might be just to ladle it into our strainer. Or at least we'll start that way. Okay, very good. Okay, there is our shrimp stock. And we want to make sure we get every bit of goodness out of this shrimp stock. So we'll beat the sides of this a little bit, and then we'll just press down on these shells. I think I said heads earlier, but these are really mainly shells. So, all right, so we've got that part. And now we're just going to put this back over a high fire, and we're going to bring that to the boil because we would like for it to reduce a little bit, and just intensifying the flavor is all that's doing. So once we get that done, then we'll be ready to add our stock to our pot. Our vegetables have been going for about 5-6 minutes here, and look at that nice color. Beautiful. All right, so now it is time. Our stock has been over here boiling and reducing, so we're going to now start adding some of that to our pot and just get that stirred in. And you can see now why why I went so dark on the roux, and it's because once you start putting your stock in there, it actually really lightens the color of your roux. So we're going to finish getting our stock put in this, and we'll go to the next step. Okay. We are getting the rest of our stock in, and if you start adding your stock and it turns out you've got more than you need, then that's just fine. You don't need to put it all in. Or if you have less than you need, you could always add a little bit of water to it. So now this is the consistency that we're going for. And this will actually thicken up a bit as it cooks. So now we're going to bring this to a boil, but we'll now put in our bay leaf and our thyme leaves, and we'll go ahead and season it as well. So do an initial seasoning. I'm just adding a little bit of cayenne pepper, and we'll add some salt. And this is actually a dish that requires a fair amount of salt, and some black pepper. So what we want to do now is just bring this up to just kind of a gentle boil, and then we're just going to turn it down and let it cook for about 35 minutes to get all those flavors in. Then we'll add our protein and we'll be done. Well, this is almost my favorite moment. I would say my favorite moment is actually tasting it, but the point at which we get to add our protein is absolutely one of my favorite moments in a gumbo. So what we're going to do is, this has been cooking now for probably 30-35 minutes, and you can see how the level has gone down here. So it's concentrated its flavors, and again, you have to be patient at this point, because you just can't understand why it's not quite done when you first put the stock in, but it's not. It needs to cook for 30-35 minutes, because that's what really just intensifies the flavor. It just makes it much deeper flavor. And even though we cooked that flour, that roux, for 35 minutes, you still need to cook it some more to develop the flavor and to get that kind of a grittiness out of it. So let's taste it. Okay, boy, beautiful depth of flavor. Here's the thing. This will be really good today, and it is really good. But when we reheat it tomorrow for lunch or whatever, it's going to be just as good or even better. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to adjust our seasoning a little bit with a little bit of salt. And I know that I probably listed in the ingredients a little bit of cayenne pepper, a little bit of salt, but you are welcome to use a something like a Zatarain's or a one of the other Creole or Cajun seasonings as well, because those are delicious as well. But at this point, this is done. We are now just going to add our sausage and our shrimp, and those things are all cooked already, or the sausage is already cooked. And the shrimp will just take a few minutes because you do not want to overcook it. And once those shrimp, you know, it'll just take it, because this has been boiling, this is very hot still, it's just going to take just a few minutes. So we can go ahead and actually turn our heat off. So we will turn the heat off, and now look at the color on this shrimp. You see that? It's already done. All right, we are going to cover it up and just let it sit for 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll serve it up. All right, it's my favorite time of the day. It is time to taste this gumbo, and just take a look at that. Ooh, nice sauce. Oh, let's get a little bit of shrimp. We're serving this today with just some plain white rice, and that's really what you need when you're doing a gumbo. We're not doing anything fancy, a basmati or jasmine rice. We're just doing a plain white rice. And personally, I like plenty of sauce with my gumbo. Perfect. Okay, and let's just do a little sprinkle of some fresh parsley over the top. You could put chives, you could put anything you want. And we'll just make it pretty with a little sprig of parsley there. And I actually like to add just one more little touch of cayenne pepper there. And we are pairing this today with a wonderful Belgian beer. It's called Duvel, that my neighbor Christophe has told me about, and it's a fantastic beer. It pairs very well with many different things, especially things that are spicy. But let's give this a shot. Let's give it a taste. Oh, my first thing that I like to do when I have gumbo, especially at a restaurant, is just to taste the roux. Very nice. Really great depth of flavor. It's not watery. It doesn't taste like water. And that's because we use that beautiful shrimp stock. And again, we made our shrimp stock from scratch, but you can certainly purchase a shrimp or even a fish stock. And if you're making a chicken and sausage gumbo, use a nice chicken stock. But boy, that really has some great depth of flavor to it. All right, let's try a little bit of the shrimp. And it's just great. The shrimp are not overcooked because, again, we put them in at the very last minute. And of course, I have to taste the sausage as well. It's just fantastic. This, along with a nice beer, you know, if we were in New Orleans or if we were in Louisiana, we'd have a Abita beer. But in this case, we're going with a Belgian, and it's going to go down very well. So, happy gumboing, y'all. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, give us a thumbs up below and hit that subscribe button. It's free. And ring the bell if you want to be notified as soon as we release a new video. Also, let us know in the comments if you have any special recipe requests. We really appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.